Welcome to the show known as Conversations with Ralph Walker. Now, you know a place that's filled with conversations? How about your local barbershop? Oh, you know everybody's an expert when they walk in the barbershop. The clientele is always quite interesting. Well, what if I told you that there was an individual that walked in a barbershop and had an idea or a concept that maybe people should be reading more? Oh no, not those books. I'm saying books for young people. Interesting idea? All right. When I went to get tapered up for this show at the Headliner's Barbershop in San Dimas, someone approached me about someone that had brought in something very interesting, a bookcase filled with books. I was very amazed, since you know most young people are into whatever you want to call it, 24/7. The art of reading, isn't that sort of a lost art? All right, some of you viewers out there probably saying, all right, Mr. Walker, you're talking a little bit long. What is the show about? I'm honored to have here Masoud McLeod. How you doing today, sir?
I'm good.
All right, got to hear that voice now.
Yeah.
All right. Now, how old are you?
I'm 12.
You're 12 years old?
Mm-hmm.
And you go to school where at?
I homeschool, but I go through a homeschooling program through Mount Baldy Elementary.
Okay, homeschool, quite interesting for a lot of folks. Now, I brought up the idea of someone bringing books into the barbershop.
Yeah.
Tell the viewers out there, how did you get that idea? What made you do it?
Well, my grandfather did a similar project out in Nevada, and I was inspired one spring when I was visiting him to do the same out here. And
so what made you think people would want to get off into reading books?
Well, I mean, most of the kids seemed bored when they were waiting to get their hair cut, and so I thought maybe if I gave them an option and they pretty much had no other option if they didn't have their, whatever mobile device they have on hand, then they'd get into reading. And reading, once you get into it, is very fascinating.
Now, what's the first book that you picked up that caught your attention?
Ooh, I don't know, because I've been reading since
Or the most
like
recent
3.
book?
Oh, most recent book. I've been reading the I Am Number 4 series.
I Am Number 4, and what is that about?
It's a sci-fi, yeah.
Sci-fi, all right. Surrounding about what? What's the theme of it?
Well, it's these aliens that land on planet Earth to protect the Earthlings, if you want to call them.
Okay, Earthlings.
Yeah, from these other evil aliens.
So you enjoy that?
Yeah, I'm on the 4th book right now.
All right, now how do you enjoy, you brought up the term homeschooling. Now, what made you get off into, do you enjoy that?
Oh, yeah.
Don't you miss being around other folks your age?
Oh, no, not really, because I am around other folks my age a lot. I mean, on Monday, I have a homeschool co-op where about, I don't know, maybe 60 plus kids. Just, they have classes, and, we even have a little lunch break, and, I get to hang out. I have many very good friends there, and then, like, pretty much every day of the week, I'm seeing some other kid.
All right, now tell me, who did you approach at the Headliner's barbershop?
I approached the barber that I know the most.
What was that?
Chris Walker.
All right, Chris Walker.
Very
not related.
coincidental. Yeah, I mean, yeah, on my father's side.
So how did you approach him? Tell the viewers out there, what did you do?
Well, I'd been inspired, and so my dad and I went over and talked to him about it to the barbershop, and he sounded all right with it, and so I collected about 85 books and then built the bookcase in November.
So where did you get the books from?
Most of them were from my own personal library in my house, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what do you plan on accomplishing? What do you want to accomplish?
You mean like goals for the future with my?
With this project that you
Well, I want to put 2 more bookcases in 2 more barbershops. So, yeah, that, and I don't know. I want to keep it going for as long as possible.
All right, now, how do you monitor or check if people are reading the books? How do you know if they're just sitting there?
Oh, well, some of the barbers will let me know, people have been reading. And then I have a little sheet. It's a borrower sheet.
Okay.
And so if they want to check out a book, they can write their name down, their contact information, the title, the author, and then they check it out and they tell the barber the estimated time of when they're going to return it. And then, so I've been able to take like monthly inventory checks and see, what people have checked out when they've returned it. If they return it, they just cross it out.
All right, so you have been able to monitor progress, which is a good thing because some people down the road are going to ask you, where's your data for all this to determine whether or not it's successful. Now, what do you plan on being in life? As you project yourself into this future as an earthling, what comes to mind?
I'm not sure. I like building things. I might be like a engineer, mechanical engineer, something like that. I'm not sure. Yeah.
You like building buildings or just anything? You like tinkering with assembling things?
Yeah, I like tinkering with assembling things. I take a lot of stuff apart and put it back together, I play a whole bunch with Legos, you know what I mean? Yeah.
All right. What is when you think about reading, what's the biggest challenge to get someone to read?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I had to guess, I would think that maybe the people don't think it's as good. Like, it's in a movie, they would actually see everything, but I don't know if they think it would be as good if they were just, looking at some words. But really, it's not, because first of all, it builds your imagination, because you're imagining that, and so I imagine things a lot.
That's a key thing. But some young people I come across, they tend to think that reading is boring. And I always tell them maybe it's because someone hasn't placed a book in your hand that interests you or stimulates you to say, wow, because most things that people enjoy can be found in the book.
Yeah.
What do rap stars do? They find a lyric, they come up with something, they take a nursery rhyme and make it a hit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, who is the person in your family? You mentioned your grandfather?
Yeah, so two grandfathers played a big part in this. One was Bruce McLeod Jr., and the other was Donald Smith. And so my grandfather, who lives in Nevada, is Bruce McLeod Jr., and he was the one who inspired me. But my other grandfather, Donald Smith, worked with me on building the
So how did he inspire you?
Well, I mean, when I was visiting over last spring, he took me to his barber shop and he showed me what he had done, and he had a logo and everything. It was really, really, really fascinating. And I thought, it'd be kind of neat to just kind of branch this out, and have it in a whole bunch of other places.
So he sold you on it, in a sense, by demonstrating this is what it looks like and this is what you should do.
Mm-hmm.
So in some ways, it's becoming a tradition in your family.
Yeah.
Or you're carrying the torch to the next generation, we could say?
Yeah, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, that'd be
So
cool.
if you had to recommend a book for someone out there to get them started into reading, what would you recommend?
Well, it depends on what your tastes are. So if you like currently haven't read a lot, and you don't read a lot, I would probably focus on, like, if you like sci-fi movies or action adventure movies, then I would focus on that kind of theme in a book, and then, but book, like a specific book that I would recommend.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Well, when I really started, like, really enjoying reading, when I was much younger, I was like 7.
Much younger. I appreciate that. Go ahead.
I read The Chronicles of Droon. That was cool.
Say that again.
The Chronicles of Droon.
A drone?
Droon, yeah.
Yeah, that's a hot subject now, the drones, right?
Droons.
Am I right or wrong?
I don't know. Maybe you're thinking about drones.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, Drone it's different. It's a fantasy. It's a fantasy series. Yeah, and it's for younger kids.
It's for younger kids.
Yeah, so I read that when I was much younger, like 6, 7, and then.
So what if they said, I can't afford to buy no book? Well, what would you tell them then?
Well, you can just go to your library and get a library card.
And that's free?
I'm pretty sure.
A library card is free.
Yeah.
And you get to check out books free.
Mhm.
But you have you have a date on them that they have to be returned, similar to like what you're doing.
Mhm.
All right.
Yeah.
Now, thinking about books, if you had to write a book about yourself, what would the first chapter be called?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I have no
I'm
idea.
noted for those type questions, okay?
Yeah.
I would think it would be the journal, or your journey of getting involved with this program, encouraging young people to read, starting off in the barbershop, or my first barbershop, something along that line. So you're not documenting what's been going on with you as an individual?
My mom and I are working on a little photo album with that kind of talks about the entire process of this project, so that if any other kids are thinking about doing the same thing, they can kind of take a look at that, and that can be like a little guide, you know what I mean?
Now, do you think much of world events, things that happen in the newspaper, do you ever read the newspaper?
Yeah, I do.
Any articles in particular jump out? Any section of the paper that you might take a look at?
Well, I read the calendar a lot, but...
Okay, finding out where events are
Yeah.
and things along that line. What do you think of the world today?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, it's a great place
I'm
for
going
me.
deep thoughts on you.
Yeah.
Because the viewers out there may wonder, what do young people think about your age? And your age again is?
12.
12 years old. Pretty soon you'll be a teenager.
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean, looking forward to that?
I don't know. Honestly, when I was younger, I was looking forward to being a teen. You know, I was like, it's going to be great. I'm going to be able to go on all the rides, you know. It's going to be really cool. But then now that I'm getting closer to that age, I'm kind of...
The drama's not there.
Man, yeah.
I'm going to be a teenager.
Yeah. Yeah, and it seems like almost depressing, you know. Like, man, I wish I could go back to when I was 5. You know what I mean? Yeah.
All right, now, if the viewers want to get in contact with you, how would they get in contact with you?
Well, if you could just go to the BNC Headliners Barbershop, and there my barber has a copy of my proposal, and that has my contact information. But I guess I could just spout my email or something.
All right, in 15 seconds or less, look at that camera and tell young people why they should get off into reading.
Well, it's a very good habit, you know, and it keeps your imagination alive, and I find it very, very fun as playing video games or watching movies. Yeah.
All right, sounds good to me. Honored and a pleasure to have you here on the show.
Pleasure to be
Masoud
here.
McLeod. Look out for that name, because he's going to be going places. All right, I'm glad to have here in the studio Mrs. McLeod. How you doing today?
I'm fine, thank you.
All right, a very interesting interview with your son.
Yes, it was.
Fascinating young man. You must be very proud.
I'm absolutely pleased.
All right, now, but I didn't ask him, but does he have any sisters or brothers?
He does. He has an older sister. She's 16 years old.
Oh, it's a 16 and a 12-year-old. Oh, God, that should be interesting. Huh?
It's an interesting dynamic.
All right, he brought up the concept of homeschooling.
Yes.
You're a homeschool mom?
I am.
How did you get involved in that?
Well, it's a decision that my husband and I made even before we started having children. We'd done some reading about education in general. Specifically, we read some books by Jonathan Kozol, and we started looking at the landscape of education here in the United States for children. And then eventually we had to focus on what was happening here in California for students, particularly African American students. And the statistics weren't very hopeful.
So what was happening? for some of those viewers out there that might think, well, the schools look great to me. I drive past and the lawns are manicured, the building looks good, but what was going
Right.
internally?
Right, so the statistics bear out another story than what you might see in a well-manicured lawn. I think most people are aware of the educational gap that exists among African American students here in the United States and other students. And that's kind of across the board in both public and private institutions. And so my husband and I thought, well, if we wanted to create the best education that we think our children deserved, how could we design that on our own? And we started picking up a couple of coffee table-like books on the subject of homeschooling. And then with further research, we decided this was the way for us to go.
Now, had you been living in the United States?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Go.
And so, you know, as time went on, we saw that it was a good fit for us, and it seemed to work. And it was successful for us.
So now some of the viewers out there might start thinking, well, homeschool, I mean, you're going to be at home all day with the kid?
Right. It's an interesting misnomer for what we really do. I think the title itself suggests that the education comes from a source that's at home, but our experiences often happen in other venues and in areas all over the place.
But you don't get burnt out after 2 months, 3 months or so?
Yeah, that's a good question, right? I think, you know, for the average person in any job, there are challenges, and you have ups and downs, and there are times where, you know, you don't have too much faith in your ability to go on, and then you learn something new, and you master that, and you feel successful, and it's really great.
Now, does some viewers out there may be asking, do you need a college degree to do homeschooling?
Right, and that's an important question to ask. Every state has different laws about how you can be established legally as a homeschooler. And here in the state of California, a college degree is not necessary, nor is a teacher's certification or license. Although I don't have a background in teaching. My husband and I met at Howard University, and neither of us were studying education in any way. But this journey, I can tell you, has been quite fulfilling and satisfying in terms of my own education and learning how people learn.
So what about those that say that, well, homeschooling, well, he doesn't have any interaction with his peers, his social skills may not be up to speed?
Right. Right. That's the question that a lot of people ask, and it's really become a new conversation for a lot of people because youth today, as you know, socialize in a very different way than they did when you and I were teenagers or in elementary school. I mean, it's evolving even as we speak. Our idea of what it means to be social isn't even what we used to think it was in terms of kids getting together in person and hanging out at the mall. They don't do that anymore. No. It's social media. It's happening in a virtual world. And so the question of socialization is kind of changing, isn't it?
So
it's kind of losing its...
That challenge, though, is that healthy as far as a
that's a good
human
question.
being whose natural instinct is to socialize, right?
Yeah, and I should be clear, for us, socialization isn't a challenge. Maybe it is for other people, whether they homeschool or not. I mean, you find children that are in school that have a very hard time socializing. But for me and my family, my kids are able to be in social settings and be very, very comfortable because that's been our habit. We, every day, are involved in social events, and it's not
beyond the house. That's not just in the house. You taking that social schooling beyond the borders of the house?
Yes, we do.
So like visiting different places of education?
On a weekly basis, we have a homeschool co-op where my son interacts a great deal with many, many other students and teachers as well. And then
what do they talk about?
At the homeschool co-op?
Yeah.
Oh, well, currently the co-op offers about 33 classes in the course of 5 periods in that day. And depending upon what your course selection is, you could talk about anything from cooking to science to the stock market to history to stop motion. I mean, there's a pretty amazing menu of classes.
Who defines the schedule? Oh, the programming. I should say the programming that you need to know, have some information on this, be it math, be it maybe algebra, be it science. Who sets that up, and how do you know if you're not going too far towards one way and not enough towards the way that the student, the child needs?
Right. So education here in California has two different bodies of law, one for public and the other for private. So private schools establish their own set of standards and curriculum. That's informed, I'm sure, for the most part by some, state standards.
Right.
Public schools and those homeschool families that are under some public school umbrella are susceptible to the standards of the Department of Education and the Common Core and the scope and sequence that all public schools have to deal with. And so that's kind of what designs the homeschool curriculum. My son homeschools through the Mount Baldy School District.
Okay.
They have a homeschool branch, and we go through them. And so
now, do they provide testing and that?
They do. They provide the standardized testing that you would get in any public school.
So what do it take to test that? At home or at the school?
It happens at the school, yes.
Oh, okay. So there's no cheating, like I'm at home and I can get the answers. No one's looking at me.
Right. That's an interesting idea. In our home, we homeschool for mastery. And so the idea of cheating is doesn't really fit, or it's not really in sync with the way that we learn. Although, as you were saying, in the testing situation, it's just like you would see at any other institution. There's a proctor and there's a set standard for the tests. But at home, we learn because there's a joy of learning, and so there's nothing to cheat with, because you're just trying to learn.
Am I getting the picture that you develop a different culture about learning? You nurture a culture that's focusing on the joy of learning?
I guess you could say that.
Rather, how people deal with education now, I have to go learn this. This is boring.
Right.
I mean, that's sort of the part of the decline of public school, public education in a lot of ways.
Well, I often find it tricky to compare homeschools with public education because the environments are so different. My heart goes out to teachers really who have 30 plus students to teach, right? And so the curriculum and the program design looks very different when you have 33 kids to care for and to guide, but I have just one. And so I'm able to structure something in a way that is very dynamic and suited for my one student.
So now
and that's not easy for a public school teacher to do, I don't think. And so I guess some people might say that it's boring, but I see a lot of hard work out there.
Now, did your daughter go through homeschooling?
She was homeschooled from what they say the giddy up, from the beginning until she entered high school.
So she left from homeschooling, now she's in high school?
She is.
And how is she doing?
She's doing very well.
Does she enjoy that transition, I'll say?
I would say that it was a very seamless transition. She went from our homeschool environment to a private school where there are about 400 students.
Okay.
The class sizes range from 12 to 17 kids.
Okay, so sort of similar in some way.
It was similar. It is similar.
Now, as a African-American mom, which I really didn't need to say, obviously, but in any event, how do you respond to those out there that might say, well, with your intellect and your ability to stress points, why didn't you help the public school system? Why wouldn't you be a vocal mom out there saying, in this school area, we need this? Why abandon the public school system? I mean, if everyone did homeschool, where would the public school system be? Right. Or maybe that's where you don't want to be?
Well, I like that you prefaced this statement by saying as a mom,
Mm-hmm.
because my first interest is in my children.
Mm.
And so it's my children that I don't want to abandon. And I'm happy to engage in any institution that supports what I do as a mother, and that's raising a healthy child, right? And so my interest is in supporting and creating an environment where my child can be successful and can be healthy and flourish. And if that could happen in a public school system, you know, if the statistics and the information and data that we have would suggest that it could happen there, then that's where we would be. But we're at home, and it's working out just fine.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my other thought is like, okay, public school system needs what to fix it? As a person from the outside looking in, what does it need?
You know, I don't know that I'm the person to answer that question. You know, I see that teachers feel supported when there's lots of parental involvement,
Right.
but I